So where does this come from? How can a framework actually help you to get to better results? And how did this framework come into existence? So as we've mentioned, this has been around for a while, since the 60s when the first ideas about design thinking came up. It is a very human-centered approach. There's a lot of empathy, a lot of testing, a lot of human experience, and also a lot of subjectivity that comes into the process, like people's opinions and people's needs and people's problems that you take into account in order to get to better results. So it's very human-centered. This is a method for complex and wicked problems, so if the solution to the problem that you're exploring is obvious, and that's what needs to be done, then you wouldn't apply this kind of process because you wouldn't need to take all the steps in order to get to the right solution. If the solution is not obvious, there might be a lot of different solutions and there's kind of a need for something more innovative, something more original, then this is the right method to do that. It focuses first on problem framing and then afterwards on the solution. So as we'll see in a moment when we're discussing the models, the frameworks that are used within design thinking, you can see first it's about a problem and really getting to know everything that there is to know about the problem, all the ins and the outs, and then afterwards, once you get those insights, then you're going to focus on the solution. So first problem, then a solution, and it is a step-by-step approach. Now there's a couple of influential actors in design thinking, for example, Stanford, famous university, famous for its innovation practices and processes, and IDEO, which is a consulting firm, a design consulting firm. They've been very much involved into developing design thinking into what it is right now. Also the British Design Council, who also developed a framework in order to give people a tool to apply design thinking actually. Now, Stanford and IDEO have developed this step-by-step model, this framework, which consists of 5 steps: empathizing, defining, ideating, prototyping, and testing. And therefore, it's a very a good tool to take it step by step. You can apply different ways of thinking to different phases of the process, different objectives to each of the steps of the process, and therefore you break it down into very tangible pieces that you can really get your head around. So these are 5 steps. We're going to discuss them a little bit more in depth later on in the practice part of this course. And this is one of the main models that's used actually within design thinking in universities, in professional environments. So this is another very influential framework within design thinking. This is the one developed by the British Design Council, and it is called a double diamond for obvious reasons. There's 2 diamonds in there. And basically what they do with this framework is they really focus on divergent and convergent thinking. So divergent thinking is really about opening your options up, getting a lot of insights, a lot of different perspectives, or a lot of different ideas if you're in this part of the solution. And convergent thinking is really about narrowing your options down or your insights down. So getting to really select the most important insights that you should base the solution on, or getting to select the most important solutions in order to go to prototyping and testing. So you start with basically a challenge, what they call a challenge, like a problem or a theme that you would want to work on, and then you go out and explore. You go out and observe people, interview people, do some desk research, really get as many insights as possible, and then afterwards you define your most important insights. So those that are really important to take into account, there's a couple you would probably leave out of scope. And there's also a couple that are not so important or were not mentioned by so many people in their interviews or observations, were not so frequent. So you narrow it down again. and then you get to the main problem, and then you go to the solutions. And it's the same kind of process. First, you open up your options, you do a lot of ideation, a lot of designing, developing your possible solutions, and afterwards you deliver, what they call deliver, and you get to the outcome, the end result, which is basically an idea that's a lot more developed and a lot more like a concept, a complete concept. So as we've mentioned, these are really frameworks, and within these frameworks, you might apply your own techniques or the techniques that you choose to use. And I would encourage you to choose the techniques that you really expect to add the most value to your particular theme, to your particular problem that you're working on, your innovation challenge. So there's loads of techniques. There's interviews, there's questionnaires, design sessions, brainstorming, sketching, mind mapping, usability testing, focus groups, paper prototypes, observations, desk research, lo-fi prototyping, hi-fi prototyping. There's a lot more techniques, and you might even invent your own techniques. So choose what's most useful for you in the particular process that you're in. We are going to discuss the framework with the steps, the 5 steps that's defined by Stanford and IDEO. And I'm going to mention a couple of examples using a couple of these techniques, but you feel free, please, to apply your own techniques and figure out more techniques. So this is something that you can really investigate on the internet as well. There's loads of techniques out there, and please go out and explore. So now within design thinking, there's really a mindset and a couple of principles that I would like to draw your attention to. So first, it's about diverging and converging. These are different mindsets for different phases of the process, and you might want to repeat that process really quite a lot. Now, in the double diamond framework, for example, there's one time that's diverging and converging again, and diverging again and converging again. You might want to repeat that a couple of times. For example, if you're not happy with whatever you've been converging on after ideation, so the basic concepts, the basic results, if you're not happy with that, you might want to open up the spectrum again and go back and diverge again, do some more brainstorms, apply some different techniques to get to better ideas, and then afterwards converge again in order to get to the best solutions and being able to prototype. So you really might want to repeat that a couple of times to enrich your ideas and to get to the best results that you're looking for. Now keep in mind that you're exploring in design thinking. You don't know the answer yet, so you need to be very open to everything around you, to other people's opinions as well, subjectivity and experience, examples that people might use. So open up your mentality and really use an exploring mindset in order to gather all these insights and define what you can use in order to get to the best results. Keep your energy up. That's something else. This is about innovation, something that attracts energy, something that generates energy. You can feel it really quite often. So keep that energy flowing, and if it's stagnating, then that's a sign that maybe you need to go a step back and reflect upon what's happened and need to kind of do it again and kind of iterate between different solutions, for example. So be very aware of the energy and keep the energy up while you're going through the process. Be iterative, as we've mentioned before, so monitor also your cycling time. You really want to get at a certain point to end results, so you need to not be stuck in one of the phases, but make sure that you keep going, you keep this cycle time. And you might want to go back and forth. This is a very dynamic process. You might want to go back and forth quite a couple of times in order to make sure that you've got all the right insights, that you're not missing out on a very particularly important idea, for example, for a solution. So you might want to go back and forth a little bit.